Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to Stately Von Manor, where Roger and I have returned for my weekend reading report. It's my weekend reading report, where I talk about all of the things that I read during the previous week. And this week, it wasn't as much as I would have liked. Not as much as I would have liked, because, you know, it was a busy week. I always have busy weeks. I actually figured that on an average workday, I have maybe an hour to myself to read or do something else. Maybe an hour. And that's not all at once. It's spread out between the morning and the afternoon or the evening. Maybe an hour and 20 minutes, something like that on average. And so, you know, sometimes I do other things during the week during that time, like make videos. If I didn't make any videos this past week, I would have read more books. You know, what do you do? And plus, you know, I'll get into it in a minute. But first, I want to talk about, I have a question. Why does Goodreads suck so bad at keeping track of the books you read? The one thing, this is just a short little rant on Goodreads, the one thing Goodreads is supposed to do, you know, as a website, is keep track of what you read. And so I'm on the 500 book challenge, the challenge where I have to read 500 books that I already own before I'll buy any new ones. And I thought, you know, I'll just keep track of this on Goodreads. So I made a bookshelf on Goodreads to track the books I'm reading for this challenge. But every time I check it on Goodreads, there's a different number there. The number should be 95. I've read 95 books for the 500 book challenge so far. But it doesn't always say 95. Sometimes it says 93. Sometimes it says 94. Sometimes it'll say 95. It has one job basically that it really needs to do, right? Goodreads, keep track of what you read. And I'm not the only one that's had this problem. I've heard some other people on BookTube complain about the same issue. Why does it suck so bad, Goodreads? I don't know. See, I have to write them all out in a notebook, just like the old-timey days. I'm just going to have to sit down and do that. Oh, well, I just checked Goodreads before I went on here. And again, it gave me a wrong number. So stupid. Anyway, that has nothing to do with what I've been reading. Also, here's another thing besides video making that I think, because I've been trying to figure, you know, how can I need to get through more books, because I'm in Ambuary right now. Ambuary. You thought it was January. It's Ambuary, because I'm reading the Great Book of Amber in Ambuary. And it turns out that February is also going to be Ambuary, because it doesn't look like I'm going to finish this month, because it's already halfway through the month. I've read that much of this book because I've been so busy and doing other things. But I have read, let's see, so this has 10 books in it. 10 books in this one great big book. Has the entire Amber series written by Roger Zelazny, which, as it turns out, is fantastic so far. So during this week, I finished 2 books in this great big book of Amber. I finished The Guns of Avalon and The Sign of the Unicorn. I just started The Hand of Oberon. The Hand of Oberon. And the first 3 books in this series are great. They're great. They do read like one story. I guess there are 2 stories in this, basically. There are the Corwin series of books, which are the first 5. And the second 5, I believe, are about Corwin's son, Corwin being the main character. The second 5 are about Corwin's son named Merlin, and so that's the Merlin series. So basically, this big thing is 2 stories, and altogether it is the complete Amber Chronicles. But so far, the Corwin series of books read like one big novel. And if it were written today, undoubtedly, it would be one big novel. You know, these were written back in the days, in the 1970s and into the 1980s, when fantasy novels did not have to be gigantic. You know, unnecessary bloat was not something that you would just expect from a fantasy novel back in those days. Now, yeah, this would be like the first book in a series, you know, if you were reading this, you know, if Zelazny was writing fantasy novels today, you would probably have, this would be one book of a series. But back in his day, that wasn't the case. And one of the good things about it is that, since, you know, he could write fast-paced, plot-driven fantasy stories like he does here, that also have great characters, just fantastic characters in this series of books. But they are very fast-paced. Things happen in this series of books. There's not a lot of just unnecessary, time-consuming stuff that's just in there to make the page count longer. You know, you don't get a lot of that. And I like that about this series of books. It's been great fun. And I'll talk more about the Corwin Saga, which are the first 5 books of Amber, after I finish them. Which, I don't know if it'll be this week, but it might be. It might be this week. I'll finish those. I hope so. But I'm having a great time with this book. I highly recommend this. I hear the back half isn't as good as the front half. I hear the Merlin books aren't as good as the Corwin books. But I've just heard that. I don't know that from my own experience, of course, because I haven't read them. But I'm hoping to read more this coming week. I'm hoping. Here's my other thing. Here's my other issue. And I've been thinking about this. Why have I not been able to read as quickly as I want? And one of the things is that every day, I get these things delivered to my house. Now, I know I don't have a ton of younger viewers, but I do have some younger viewers, and you won't know what this is if you just look at this. So let me explain what this is. This is called a newspaper. It's a newspaper. It's this thing that you used to get back in the day, and some of us old codgers still get them. And it's paper, like it's a whole thing, all filled with news. Unfortunately, you know, it's all about the real world, which sucks, so I don't know why I pay attention to this at all. But somebody keeps driving by my house every single day and tossing it at the house. You know, sometimes it ends up on my car, sometimes it ends up, you know, in the rose bush, but every day, somewhere out front, I'll get this. And I take it inside, and I just, you know, it has words on it, so I read it and learn all about the horrible things that are happening in today's world, which, like I said, probably better not to pay any attention to, but I do. I don't know why. I'm a glutton for punishment. Anyway, this is the New York Times. This is a national paper, you know. But the worst thing is, this isn't the only thing that's being thrown at my house every day. I also get this. This is another newspaper. This is the local news. This is today's. I just dragged this out of the mud out in front of the manor. This is today's paper, the local paper. And so I get, you know, every weekday I get these. And I find myself in the morning reading these, a bunch of words about the real world, when I should be paying attention to this and this. Instead, newspapers. Now, I'm kind of surprised these are still showing up. You would think that these would just be relics of the past. And like I said, most people aren't aware that these still exist, but they do. You know, maybe I just live in an alternate dimension where newspapers still exist, but I do still have these, and they do still arrive at the manor every single day. And I never talk about them on my weekend reading report because, you know, why would I? It's all about the real world. But I do spend a lot of time unnecessarily reading these. And it's a bad habit, Roger. I've got to stop. I've got to stop doing that. It's all full of nonsense, those papers. You know, I should be reading be reading the Great Book of Amber. Anyway, in the Great Book of Amber, I'm reading The Hand of Oberon. I literally just started that yesterday, last night actually. And I have today off, so I'll be able to read more of this. And I've got to finish up this. This is Thor Epic Collection Volume 7. This is Ulick Unchanged. Of course, this is 2020 Thor. 2020 Thor. The year where I'm reading a lot of Thor, at least up through October, I am. Reading the entire first run of Thor, which ran from the early 1960s into the mid-1990s. And this is what I'm up to now. I am in the middle of an issue, because I stopped it because I had to go and film this video. I am reading right at this very moment Thor issue 240. Thor issue 240, where he goes up against the Egyptian gods, the Egyptian pantheon. Thor does, you know, and which is cool because up to this point he has not battled the Egyptian gods. You know, we've had a lot of Hercules, you know, we've seen some Greek gods, but the Egyptian gods no. So, you know, now we get that. And at this point in the series, Len Wein has taken over the writing, who, you know, the great co-creator of Swamp Thing and so many other great comic book characters. He's taken over from Jerry Conway, and I enjoyed Jerry Conway's run, even though he made Thor dumber than Thor has ever been before. And he had some terrible dialogue, and there were some other things that weren't great about it. But he did take Thor into some interesting places, and he did some new things with Thor. Covered a lot of old ground, but he did also do some new things. And so it was interesting. I don't know if Jerry Conway's going to come back during the series at all, but I do know that the next epic collection, which I'll probably be starting today, Volume 8, this is War of the Gods. It looks like Len Wein is the writer. We continue with great work from John Buscema. In this one, we also had a couple of other artists. Sal Buscema did a couple issues in this one, but mostly it was John Buscema doing the artwork, and he mostly does the artwork in this one as well. And it looks like we're getting more Hercules in this one. You can never have too much Hercules. I always liked the version of Hercules that you see in these older Thor comics, the 1970s Thor comics. I'm kind of surprised that Hercules didn't have his own regular series, considering that Hercules is a character that everybody knows who Hercules is, you know, especially back then, because it wasn't that, you know, this was close to the time when you had all those 1960s Hercules movies. But I liked Hercules. You know, then Marvel went and had him shave his beard off, and he was just never the same after that. But yeah, this is the next one I'm going to read, War of the Gods, and this has Thor stories up through 1977. So, yeah, this is going to be cool. We'll continue with that. I didn't get too much at the Manor this week because, you know, 500 book challenge, but I did have a pre-order of an epic collection that did come in, and I've been waiting for years for this particular epic collection. Literally for years, I've been waiting for this one. And this is Doctor Strange Volume 2, I, Dormammu. The thing about Marvel epic collections is that the volumes are not published in chronological order. Like, they'll publish like Volume 1, and then they'll publish Volume 5, and then Volume 8 or something. They'll do it that way so that they're not stuck in the 1960s or the 1970s forever. And they could showcase different stories from different periods of the characters that they're talking about. Now, we're starting to get a lot of complete runs, and we're coming to the time when we're just going to have long series of epic collections that are complete because all of the gaps are being filled in now. slowly, but it's taken forever to get volume 2 of Doctor Strange. We had volume 1, we had volume 3, we had volume 4, but volume 2, it's taken forever, and I really wanted this one because this one is so cool. So Steve Ditko, the wonderful co-creator of Doctor Strange, just left the book, but his replacement was an artist I like a lot, and that was Bill Everett. So Bill Everett continues on the work of Doctor Strange, and that I just really like Everett's work a lot. He's just really cool and really weird, and so we get some really weird looking Doctor Strange stories. There are some other artists that are really good. Tom Palmer actually comes in and does some really cool Doctor Strange stories. And at the end of this, we get some stories written by Roy Thomas, and Gene Colan does the artwork. And of course, Gene Colan is just magnificent. Just a wonderful, wonderful artist. And he does some great work on Doctor Strange. Just some great work. So I was really thrilled to get this. This has Doctor Strange stories from 1966 to 1969. And so this was very exciting. So for the upcoming week, it's just more Thor, more of this, probably into February, unless I can really pick up the pace somehow. I'm trying to get my pal Roger over here to find a spell in the Necronomicon that actually gives me more time during work days, but so far he has been unsuccessful, and he won't let me use his time machine because he tells me every time I use the time machine, I destroy the whole fabric of space and time, and he has to go and fix it, and then we have problems. Anyway, we'll see if that works out. Probably not, though. If I have any time in next month, though, as soon as this is done, I do want to get to this book, which I've been putting off forever for some reason, even though it's supposed to be great. Tim Powers' The Anubis Gates. I really, really am anxious to read this one. And I'll probably keep reading these stupid, crappy things that keep showing up in the front of the house. Okay, that's all I have to say. Catch me tomorrow when I talk about the next, I think, 15 Edgar Rice Burroughs books I'm going to read, because I'm reading all of Edgar Rice Burroughs' books. And then I got a bookshelf essential video coming up this coming week, and all kinds of exciting things. You know, this place is just full of excitement. I will catch you next time.